And real quickly, I've already done a video that discussed life estates. And I highly recommend that you go and watch that video first. And up in the right-hand corner of this video, there's going to pop up a little I. That's a link to that video. That video is called Freehold and Non-Freehold Estates. I highly suggest you go there, watch that video, and then come back here. I'm doing this video separately because in that video, I wanted to clarify a few things and add a few more details that I didn't in that video, so I'm doing it in this one. So a life estate. A life estate is actually pretty common. A life estate is a freehold estate, meaning it is ownership. A life estate is created by a deed, meaning voluntary alienation. So someone is going to voluntarily give somebody a life estate. It can also be created by operation of law. There are a few states where they have those mechanisms in place. We're not going to discuss them in this video. We're only going to be discussing a life estate that's created through a deed. And there are some key terms that you have to know. And they're right up here. Remainderman. What is a remainderman? We're going to discuss it in the video. I'm also going to discuss what reversionary interest is and a life tenant, who the life tenant is. All right, so life estate, let's get to it. A life estate. Here's how we create a life estate. Let's say that I own this house and my mom needs a place to live. And I say, Mom, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you this house. I'm going to transfer title. And remember, in real estate, title means ownership. I'm going to transfer the ownership of this house to you, but only for the remaining balance of your life. Once you die, then the ownership interest is going to transfer to what we call the remainderman. And I'll explain that in a minute. So, Mom says, great, we're going to do this. So I sign a deed over, and again, remember, title transfers when a deed is executed by the grantors, and the grantors are the owners of record, or all the owners. It is delivered to the grantee, which is the buyer, and the grantee accepts it. So in this case, I'm going to sign the deed. I'm going to deliver it to my mom, and my mom accepts it. And I'm going to give her a life estate. So Mom gets the property. Mom owns it. It's free. It's a freehold estate. Mom owns the property, but only owns it for the rest of her life. Now, once I transfer title to Mom, she is legally known now as the life tenant. So what can Mom do? Well, Mom can sell the property. She can lease the property. She can take a mortgage out on it. The things that Mom can't do, she can't waste the property. And that means she can't burn it down or destroy it. And she can't bequeath it, meaning will it to any one of her heirs or anybody else. The waste part of it, when I owned the property before I transferred it to my mom, I owned the property fee simple absolute. And if you don't know what fee simple absolute is, again, go back to that video that I referenced at the beginning of this video where we discuss what fee simple absolute is. But it basically means I have absolute ownership, so I can do basically whatever I want. So if I own this property fee simple absolute, if I wanted to burn the house down, because I wanted a vacant lot, I could do that. Mom cannot. Mom owns the property, but she only owns it. She doesn't have absolute ownership. She doesn't have fee simple absolute. She only has a life estate. So that restriction that's in there prevents her from wasting the property or bequeathing it to anybody such as her heirs. But she can sell it, she can lease it, and she can mortgage it. And I've actually seen all three of these. For example, there was an instance where I knew somebody that had a life tenant, or she was a life tenant, and she took out a reverse mortgage. But the mortgage company set it up where the reverse mortgage was based on the value of the house that she had the life tenancy in. But once that person died, there was enough assets in her ancillary estate to pay back the loan. So it wasn't tied to the property, meaning the property didn't have to be sold for the life or for the loan to be paid off. I've seen life tenants lease a property, and I've also seen them sell it. One time I've seen that. So how does that happen? It's kind of interesting. So Mom sells the property to Sally. Now Sally owns it for the remaining amount of Mom's life. Now, what happens when mom dies, or what happens when Sally dies? What happens? Well, there's this thing called a remainderman and reversionary interest. So this can be set up one of two ways. So when I transferred title to mom, I have to name a remainderman because we know mom's going to die at some point. The remainderman is the person that's going to receive the title. So it can come back to me if I wanted to. Ownership interest could come back to me, or I could say, listen, I want it to go to my son Tom after you die. Now, Tom would be called the remainderman, or in the case where it's coming back to me, I would be the remainderman. Now, understand at this point, once I transferred title to mom, we have basically two owners. We have the current owner, which is mom, and then we have Tom or me, depending on how it's set up, as the future owner. The point is, there are two people with ownership interest in the property. Mom currently has the current ownership, but Tom has the future ownership. We call that a reversionary interest. The reversionary interest is the future interest that the remainderman has in the ownership of the life estate. So when mom dies, the reversionary interest belongs to Tom, who's the remainderman. Now, if I'm going to get the property back, then I have the reversionary interest and I am the remainderman. The point is, whoever ends up with the property after mom dies is called the remainderman, and that future interest, we got to legally call it something. It's called reversionary interest. So let's go back to the scenario where mom sold the property to Sally. What happens? Well, if Sally dies, then the property goes back to mom. So mom actually has the reversionary interest here, and she is the remainderman. And then when mom dies, Tom is the remainderman, and the reversionary interest belongs to Tom. Okay, so mom sells the property to Sally, and mom dies first. Mom is the first one to die. Well, then Sally's SOL, her legal interest, her legal ownership in the property immediately transfers over to Tom, because Tom is the remainderman and Tom has the reversionary interest. That's why selling is pretty rare, actually, where the life tenant or mom sells the property to somebody else. So it's technically possible, but from a practical point of view, it's not very valid. You don't see it a whole lot. Anyways, that is a life estate.